Hey everyone, I'm your host, Gary, and welcome to another episode of All Consuming Podcast. This episode is all about Furnace Fest. I had the opportunity to sit down with some guys from our Discord server who were able to attend the festival, and we got to talk about our experiences and our likes and our dislikes. Now, some of us come from a long ways away from Alabama, and some lived nearby. We all have different musical backgrounds that brought us to the Christian heavy music scene. But it was a fun conversation, and I think this episode will give you some insight to Furnace Fest. And unless you were there, it'll let you know what you missed out on. So with that, I hope you enjoy the episode. So before we talk about the festival, I thought that we would go around and introduce ourselves. That way people listening know who each one of us is. I'll try to say your name before I ask you a question each time to make sure that people know that this is Bobby's voice, this is Trey's voice, so it's not like that confusing. So the first question is, I'll start with Elijah. Who are you and where are you from?
All right, my name is Elijah. I'm from the Tupelo, Mississippi area, and I do a bunch of stuff, but mainly just a video editor for sports broadcasting, stuff like that.
That's cool. And I've met you through Discord, and so I met you in real life for the first time at Furnace Fest.
I'm so sorry.
So the next person to introduce is Trey. And so Trey, same question. Who are you and where are you from?
I am from Orlando, Florida. I work as a software developer for a local ICP, and I am an admin on the ACP Discord. I met Gary because he threw in some fire memes on his Instagram, as well as Tyler, and started commenting on them, and he started talking back, and eventually it led to the Discord.
Yeah. Trey's one of the couple people that hammered on me and was like, hey, you guys should have a Discord. It would be so cool. And I think you were the second person that said it. And I was like, if you help me, I'll do it. And so, ta-da, here we are. And got to meet lots of people. Lots of fun. So the third person to introduce himself, Bobby, who are you? Where are you from?
I'm Bobby. I'm from Spokane, Washington. I have a wife and five. That's where you're from. Yes, I have a wife and 5 kids. Cancer survivor, foster and adoptive parent. Work at Liberty Mutual. Liberty. And I think I'm probably the Pumbaa to your Timon, Gary. Sorry, Tyler, but I'm a lot more Pumbaa-esque.
Okay, that's random. Oh, that's great. So, yeah. Do you know the? Do you ever get to see the emu or the ostrich or whatever that is from those commercials?
Yeah, and I cringe every time. I don't like it.
Well, I mean,
every time I watch football.
Is it like a real mascot for your company, or is it just commercials? Like, do you actually?
Just commercials.
Oh,
yeah,
that's lame. That'd be cool. Doug and what's that bird's name?
Emu.
Lemur.
Yeah.
That's right.
Dumb.
All right. And the last person is Dalen. Who are you? And where are you from?
My name is Dalen Criswell, and I am from the Charleston, South Carolina area. I've lived here most of my life. I work in the defense contracting arena where I've been doing IT for, I don't know, probably almost 20 years now. I've just done a whole lot of different kind of more like systems administration, engineering type work.
Navy side for defense contracting?
Yeah, somewhat. Kind of all-encompassing defense side. DoD
Space
side.
Force.
So, yeah, Space Force.
Bunch of nerds.
It's kind of true, except for Bobby.
It's fine.
Bobby and Elijah.
I'm an MIS major, so technically I am IT.
One day, you'll get in the field.
If I don't drop out, let's do it.
So, I think that kind of leads into our next question. Now that we know a little bit about each other, and our listeners know a little bit. The next question is what we ask, I think, everyone that's been on our podcast. We being Tyler and I, but Tyler's not here. It's just Gary. It's lonely. Miss you, Tyler. What is your musical background? What band got you, or bands got you into the heavier music? What was your gateway band that was like, I think I like metal music. And Elijah, I'll have you go first.
Let's see. I play guitar and bass. I've been playing since I was 14, so about 8 years now. I'm the baby in the group chat right now.
He's a baby. So little.
Nah.
I'm like doing the math in my head. Okay, 14
like,
and
he's
1.
So I've been playing for about 8 years. I got started just because I picked up a bass guitar at church one day, and they were like, "Hey, you want to play?" And I'm like, "What? Sure, let's do it." And so from that point on till now, I've been playing. I was in jazz band in high school. That was pretty cool. Did the whole jazz hand stuff. So as far as bands, I have a funny story with how I got into metal. So I grew up in Mississippi, and in Mississippi, you listen to one of three things. You either listen to country, you listen to gospel, or you listen to some pop, and that's it. That's all we have here. I started getting into... I went from rap to gospel because I got saved when I was 13, so I was listening to rap as a kid. Wouldn't recommend it. So rap to gospel to classic rock, and then from classic rock you get into classic metal, and then you get into modern metal. And so playing guitar really got me into metal because you learn different riffs and you learn different leads, and it just kind of is a natural progression, right? At least for people in my area. So bands that really got me in, probably the biggest classic band was probably Metallica. I listened to Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets religiously as a teenager, and then started listening to this little known band called For Today. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
They sound familiar.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit. So I started listening to For Today's Fight the Silence.
Okay.
And I adore Wake. I think Wake's their best album. That's probably going to be blasphemy to y'all. But
Wow.
favorite album by far. Favorite modern metalcore album, in my personal opinion.
Okay.
For Today, Kill Switch Engage, and to answer the question probably going to be posed later on, Demon Hunter was one of the bands that got me into metal.
Yeah.
Especially in the Christian scene, because, growing up, you listen to, like, Reliant K, and maybe you listen to some Skillet and stuff like that, but Demon Hunter and For Today really got me into heavier music. And since then, and hanging out with the ACP Discord server and a certain metal elitist who thinks everything is soft, I've gotten a lot. Yeah, you guys can figure out who I'm talking about, huh?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I went straight into heavier and heavier stuff, and I have not looked back.
Did you grow up in a Christian household?
I did not, actually. I was the so in the South, everyone's pretty much grown up. They've gone to church and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I was pretty much the first one in my family to really accept Jesus as his Lord and Savior. And
That's
so
cool.
I did it, and then my sister followed. And then my mom works in a Christian daycare, so that's been really good for her. And then my dad just does whatever. But I was the first one to kind of get into Christianity.
That's awesome. All right, next question. Next person. Trey. How about you? Your gateway band or bands?
Yeah, talentedly, I don't have a lot of music background. A little guitar, a little drums. That's about it. But musically, it took me a little while to get to the heavier stuff. I liked rock and roll from like the time I was born.
Rock and roll like Elvis or like...
That's my homeboy.
I would say the older stuff that my dad liked, like Aerosmith, and then there was newer-ish stuff like Skillet coming around. Like, learned about them in the late 90s as a kid. Thought they were the heaviest thing on the planet as a little kid. I was wrong by a little bit.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah. Just at the beginning of middle school, I discovered bands like Dead Poetic, Project 86, and Pillar. And Pillar was kind of the first one I actually started liking. And then, like, all right, I can deal with the screaming. I can deal with this. And then I started liking the screaming more. And my friends started sharing me some stuff, and I started sharing them, and they're like, yeah, whatever. I got some Under Oath and Demon Hunter in there. And I think Demon Hunter was the first band where I was actually starting to like the heavier songs, and the softer songs, it took a while for me to come back and say, all right, I like this.
Cool.
I really, really got into Under Oath, and then just like my whole high school, I was the hardcore kid, and then poppy metalcore. I really, really liked the Devil Wears Prada and Haste the Day as well. I toted around Inhale Exhale, but no one knew them. And they're just like, oh, okay, that's cool. Part of them is from like K, and they're like, nah, there's no way. And then the conversation ended, and I was sad.
Yeah.
And Norma Jean as well. I like them quite a bit too.
Yeah, so you kind of came from like starting with Skillet, Christian rock, regular rock to Christian rock to heavier stuff.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, when I remember when I was a kid, I would give, you were bringing up Pillar, and I thought Pillar was just the best band in the world. I was probably, I don't know, in 9th grade or something, and I'd go to kids' birthday parties, and my parents like, what do you want to get them? And I'm like, Pillar Fireproof and POD Satellite. Like, those are the 2 albums I'm giving all of my friends.
Nice.
We've been good friends.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Bobby, how about you? What's your musical background? What bands got you into heavier music? Gateway band, etc.
Yeah. So grew up in a Christian family. So, and kind of a Von Trapp type family. Like everyone sings and plays guitar and piano and whatever else. So, I did a lot of like worship leading and that kind of stuff as a kid, and did that in college a little bit. And I thought, if there was a banger from Casting Crowns, like, all right, it's like, that's as heavy as I really got was, oh, my friend listened to 1,000 Foot Crutch. Woo, that's heavy stuff. But I liked it. Met you in college. I actually remember there was a time that we went up, we played hacky sack in the backyard, went up to your computer, we looked at your Zune, and you're like, tell me what bands like that you recognize in my list on my Zune. And I'm like calling out like, oh, Switchfoot, Reliant K, 1,000 Foot Crutch, and you're like, I feel like there's a voice in your head going, all right, we got some work to do. Because I skipped over all the good stuff, so you started making me CDs and mix CDs, and every now and then I'd be like, dude, song 6 on mix album 3, so good. What's that? And you're like, Disciple? Like, okay. But the band that probably really converted me would be Close Your Eyes. So you gave me a CD of them and said, listen to them. They're coming to Spokane. And I didn't. And I didn't go to Spokane, didn't go to the concert.
Shame.
It's about a month later, it's sitting in my car. I'm like, oh, I guess I'll listen to it. And I threw it in there, and I was like, these guys are awesome. When are they coming back? And they never came back. But I really got into them. And then from there, he gave me some For Today and some War of Ages, and got into that. And led to Fit for King, which is the Dark Skies album is probably my favorite album of all time. But Close Your Eyes would be my gateway drug through long suffering of Gary getting me there.
I could see
That's
the marriage
weird.
of that sound in your head to be like, I like this.
Yeah, they start screaming and stuff, and they're like, Jesus! And I'm like, I like this, And then you get For Today, and they're just like screaming psalms, and I'm like, this is really cool,
Yeah.
and I can kind of understand them, and then it just got better from there. So.
Yeah. All right, and Dalen, what's your musical background, and what got you into heavier music? Yada yada yada.
Mine's really a lot different than yours because I'm older, but basically, whenever I grew up, I grew up in a Christian family, and my dad was really big into like the Christian like alternative scene back in the day, like early '90s, like late '80s, where you had like mail order things. And so I don't remember exactly what got me into the heavy stuff. I remember being like really big into punk music for a while, and then I got into more like alternative rock. But my dad always had like a huge CD collection or tape collection. I would like grab some from him, and I remember really getting into like metal stuff like Tourniquet and The Crucified, stuff like that back in the day. And I remember one of my friends really got me into like more of the more modern stuff whenever he gave me a copy of Living Sacrifice Reborn. And that's kind of like what turned me on to that kind of stuff. But then I started going to concerts around this area locally, and I got to see like early Under Oath, like before they, got signed and stuff like that. Like a lot of times, probably like 6 or 7 times. So I got to like see a lot of that emerging kind of era of, early Christian like heavy stuff. So I was kind of fortunate in that. But yeah, I kind of flip around with a bunch of different like genres starting out. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you and I are pretty similar. It's just I'm after you. Because my dad was very much like that. And, everything was mail order. I remember all those Heaven's Metal magazines in our bathroom with all the like cutouts of the orders and stuff to order music.
He actually has magazines from like before that. There was like a magazine called like White Throne or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, he's got like stuff he'd record off the radio, like these like underground radios and stuff. Yeah. He's crazy.
Wow. So I think this is a good segue into talking about the festival. So Furnace Fest is in Birmingham, Alabama. Not so far for some of you, very far for some of us. So when did you know that you wanted to go? Or that you were going to go? Like, was it a last minute thing? Did you plan a long time ago? That kind of thing. And we'll start with Elijah again.
I believe it was right around the time where it really got seriously discussed in the server, and that was probably July, August, somewhere around there. I can't remember the exact time frame. So yeah, I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna go. Like, I'm just gonna go, and we're gonna have fun. And the only reason I think I went was because the only band I knew at the time, because the lineup pretty much changed throughout the summer. But Demon Hunter was like the most consistent band on that lineup. So you know what? I'm going for Demon Hunter. And that's because, unlike all of you, I didn't grow up listening to these bands. So imagine my shock when I get there Saturday and I know no other band.
That sounds like a good time to me.
Yeah, it's like I was just like, someone's going to hold my hand throughout all of this. Baby's first metal festival is
Come
basically
with us,
what
Elijah.
this was. Which is exactly what Trey did. I'm not going to lie to you. I followed close to Trey. I went to the bands he went to. Just because, like I said, it was my first festival. It was my first.
It's like your first live anything, right?
Yeah. Closest thing, in the same city, I watched Red do an acoustic tour. So that was interesting. But other than that, I don't have friends who listen to metal. I'm like the only metalhead in my friend group. And in my area, really. There's not a lot. There's only a few of us. Please send help. So yeah, just going to Birmingham made sense to me, especially since it was just a 2.5-hour trip.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that this was your first concert, and I was like, no way.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be a really cool first experience, is Furnace Fest,
Yeah, to get there, first thing is I get jumped on by random strangers, hit in the back of the head. That was a rude awakening.
That's your problem. You follow Trey. He likes the front.
I know.
Yes.
He's like in the pit. Yeah.
He's like, people are jumping on your guys' backs, and I'm like, I'll stand back here.
There is a picture in the server, and you just see me and Trey standing, and it's like the calm before the storm.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Trey, what about you? When did you know you wanted to go and that you were going?
I believe it was around the February time where you, either you or Joe posted Furnace Fest, and I was like, I know 90% of the bands on here, and most of them I thought I'd never see. Done. Going.
Yeah. And that's not too bad of a drive for you, is it?
It was 9 hours.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Cool. Bobby, when did you know you were going to go?
You text me, said, you want to go to Furnace Fest? And I said, what's that? And you're like, it's in Birmingham, Alabama. It's steal you away from a weekend. And then I looked at all the chaos of my kids and my wife, and I said,
sign me up.
Honey, can I go away for a weekend? Sign me up. We're going. But I remember looking at the list, and as soon as I saw Close Your Eyes, I was like, they're together again? I can see them. I miss them, and that was probably the band that made me go, yeah, I can spend $2,000.
I'm very surprised you went with me. I was very surprised.
Pleasantly surprised?
Yeah.
Or regretting it?
Yeah. So yeah, I was trying to get Tyler to go, but darn him and his principles. He has too many commitments and stuff with school and being a football coach. And I remember you saying, whatever the next show is, to ask you to go and you'll go. And I was like, hey, Bobby, you want to go to Furnace Fest? That's the next show to me. But yeah, glad you said yes. It was a lot of fun.
That was fun. That was good.
Dalen, how about you? When did you know? You probably knew last year, huh?
Yeah, mine is a very complex story because I've went to both of them. So initially, when the first one got announced, it was like there was like an Instagram I think post back in late 2019 that there was going to be like some big festival happening and Beloved was going to get back together and things like that. And I jumped on that because I'd always wanted to go to Cornerstone back in the day and never got a chance to. And so I went ahead and bought tickets for it. And then 2020 rolled around, COVID happened, and they canceled all these, festivals and events. And so I was like really bummed out. But they decided to have it again on 2021. And so I got to go, and I had the absolute best time I've ever had in my life of any event ever. I just met so many different people, and it was kind of like the end of COVID kind of, thing for me. And at the end of the last day of that festival, they were like, "See you next year," and we were like, "What? I thought this was a one-time only thing." And so I think I jumped. I can't remember if I jumped on tickets like right then or if it was like a little bit longer. But I was like, "Yeah, I'm going. I'm doing this again." Like it's not that bad of a drive for me. It's like 7-8 hours. I'm not exactly sure, but I just had to go again, and I've already got tickets for next year, so I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, I'll go next year depending on who shows up on the
lineup.
Well, you just gotta let me know who you want to see, because I can get that.
Because you can make it happen. I love
get
that.
the word in. So.
Did you buy the Boss Pass?
I did.
By the way,
I did.
jeez.
Yep. I have the Boss Pass.
He's our insider.
Yeah.
So we're gonna need Dead Poetic.
Okay.
I would like to see them.
Yeah. So so I knew I wanted to go. I figured I'd answer this question because it's a fun one. I really wanted to go when I saw Close Your Eyes was there. And then Mailing in the Sense of Disaster was announced, and I was like, what? They're going to do music and all this. And but the one that pulled the trigger that made me like say I have to was Blindside. Like all through, like as a kid, I went to Creation Fest like 9 years in a row and saw tons of Christian bands, mostly on the fringe stage, the rock and metal stage. I've been to like the Tom Fest, the Other Music Festival, which had POD before they were big, a lot of lesser known bands, but I've never seen Blindside, and that's one of the like in that era, like that was probably my favorite band, of like 2000-ish year range. And so when they said they were going to come back and play Silence, my favorite album, front to back the whole way through, I was like, oh my gosh, how can I say no? Like, I have to go. Bobby, will you go with me?
Sure. Where are we going?
Yeah. All right, so let's get to just like your opinions and thoughts on the location. I mean, it's an old blast furnace, very different than any festival location I've ever been to. Like, what are your thoughts on the location, your trip there and back? What do you think of Birmingham, Alabama? Not too different for some of you, but very different for me. Elijah, how about you go first?
First thought was it's very fitting that it's in a Sloss furnace because it's very metal, and
Metal.
I'm gonna leave that there. So I had the easiest drive out of all of us, 2.5 to get there. I was doing high school football Friday night, and I drove from the place, and I think it was about an hour and a half south from where I live. I went to there to do football, drove straight to Birmingham, and met up with Trey. I think it was like 1:30 in the morning. So
Ooh.
I get there, it's chill, and then we finally get there, and I'm just like, wow, this is a very interesting place to do a festival. It was just a fun experience. I enjoyed pretty much where all the stages were. Was not about the mosh and the Sloss furnace itself, but
Like in the shed, you mean?
yeah, the shed was not about to do that. But I really enjoyed all of it, especially like because they were also different. They gave off different vibes. So in the shed, it was like that. You get that 90s hardcore early 2000s hardcore vibe from it, and the mosh pits reflected that very clearly. And then you had, I think it was Baked Brothers. Baked Brothers was the one in front of the pond.
Yeah,
So
the water. Yeah.
It was literally, you want to chill, listen to music, bring a chair, a sip out of water. It was great. And then House just really brought, like, this is a festival kind of vibe, because it's just a giant stage in front of some dirt.
Yeah, I still got sand in my shoes.
That dirt is the worst.
There was a sandstorm. It was great. Couldn't breathe. But it gave off some pretty cool effects, and I bet any tour photographer, videographer would have had a field day using that dirt and dust. It was great.
Trey, what were your thoughts?
So I left right after work to go to Birmingham, that 8-hour drive. Yeah, Florida. I like driving to Florida. Florida is great. It was easy. Highways most of the way. Super smooth. Not too many problems. The moment I hit Alabama, I don't like driving through Alabama. I don't like driving through Alabama at all. The bridges felt worse than potholes, just like consistently.
I didn't have to drive at all, so I can't share that experience with you.
I have a long list of things that happened on the Alabama drive that would be too long for my description.
It could have always been worse.
So the first thing I did on my way back is try to get to Georgia as fast as possible. So my drive back was better.
And what'd you think of the Sloss furnace?
So that was really, really neat. I saw pictures. I was gearing myself up, making maps and plans. But my first view of it was me walking over the overpass and just seeing everything below and seeing all the factories. And as it comes through and hearing the train in the distance, I was like, oh, this is going to be brutal. I'm going to love this. This is going to be fun. Hearing everyone gearing up and all that kind of stuff. Wondering if I'm going to see you, if I'm going to do my own thing. It was interesting. It was a lot of fun. A lot of good experience. I like the place. I like seeing the furnace in the back of the plug. I like how there's literally a dust storm going on when the pit fires up in the main stage. Seeing the fountains in the cooling pond by the punk stage was neat. And it was all a neat place. And I like how they had the water and the free monsters. I expected the food to be terrible, but the place was just, it was neat. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. It's funny, the first time I met you, and same with Dalen, it's like, so I've never met anybody in real life except for Bobby, obviously. But with Dalen, he's the first person I met, and Bobby and I were like, what is this place? Where are we? And Dalen stands there and points at me, and then I point at him, and that's how we knew each other. And then I think Trey did the same thing. It was
I could recognize the beard right away, from a mile away.
Is this the beard that goes to Gary, or yeah?
No, you found me because you're a ninja. I walked right past you in your lighthouse of a beard, and you're like, Trey, what?
Oh, I kind of remember that. Yeah, in the by the booths, the merch booths. Yeah. I did the same thing to Elijah. He was with you, and you texted me where are you? And I'm like, I see you. So I just walked up to you guys behind you, and I was like, hey.
You did that through the entire festival. I'd be looking all over you, and you'd just be right there behind my shoulder, hey, been here the whole time.
The hardest part.
Hey, how you doing, Trey?
The hardest part is every new day. I had to be like, what are people wearing? Because it's usually okay, I got to find the all-consuming podcast hat. That's how I could find you every time, Trey. And then the second day, Dalen was easy to find because he's wearing a bright blue shirt, and I'm like, where's that bright blue shirt?
I'll change that out next year.
It's a good thing you weren't trying to find me. I was wearing all black.
Yeah, wearing all black is hard because it's everybody's wearing all black.
Just wear black and camo shorts.
Yeah, I'll never find you.
I was just hoping that, if you could find Trey, maybe I won't be so far off.
Yep. So, Bobby, how about you? What did you think of your trip there, the location, all that?
Well, I was lucky. I had a man with a beautiful beard handle most of the travel plans, so the nitty-gritty of getting there was pretty smooth for me, other than our little Dallas hiccup where they kept changing our flight gates. We went all around that airport. They changed our gates 6 times. Yeah. But it was fine. We got there, and it was good. Birmingham, I thought was a lot like Spokane, downtown, which was familiar for me, other than the giant bugs. I was like, oh, those are huge.
Welcome to the south.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. But I thought it was cool. And then as far as the furnace, the Sloss furnace area, one thing I was really appreciative of is, other than maybe a little bit between like the punk stage and the plug your ear holes, the shed, the music didn't really blend. Like you could listen to one like stage and not have the other stage like in your ears messing up the music unless you stood at this one specific kind of area in between two of them. So I liked how they were separated that way, and you could really just kind of enjoy one and not be drowned out by the other stages. And then I think it's already kind of been said, but just the Sloss furnaces were like, this is cool. You and I had the same experience. We were walking over the bridge, got to see the Sloss furnaces from up high and kind of see what we're looking at, and that was kind of a cool first experience of it. But yeah, I liked it. I also liked how the booths were all kind of central and shaded
Under
so
the
if you needed a break,
overpass?
you could just under the overpass. Yeah, you can go get out of the sun, just kind of look around. If you're stuck in line, like you're not sweating. Like it was I like that.
Yeah.
So it was a good layout.
Yep. Dalen, what about you, the returning experienced Furnace Fester?
VIP Dalen.
Yeah. I mean, I love the whole city of Birmingham. I got to actually stay longer this year than the previous year. I got in like Wednesday and left Tuesday or something like that. So I got to spend a little bit more time exploring the city, but this year was different because the VIPs, we got to go in the back side of the Sloss furnace area, and kind of like you got to like kind of see where they do the tours at and stuff. There was a lot of really cool photography you could take back there and just things you could see. They did organize the stages a little bit different this year. They pushed the pond stage back a little bit because last year it was kind of like from the Sloss furnace area, it was kind of like the sound was just projecting straight out down the pond where you couldn't hear anything off of the other stages. So that was better. I thought, but I thought this year was done a little bit better with the vendors they chose and just different things like that. So I think they're improving things. But yeah, I love the whole aspect of an old furnace that's was used back in the day as kind of like a really cool structure to have a concert.
A metal playground.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So, do you think VIP is worth it?
To me, it is, just because you can get in. Well, you're supposed to be able to get in early. However, the lines this year were so bad. I don't know if there was more people this year than last year. I'm still trying to figure that out because of the whole COVID restrictions. Because we were supposed to get in like an hour earlier, and we were probably in the line like an hour after we were supposed to be already in. So I think there was
Bobby and I stood in that line for a minute.
There was a lot of disconnect. Yeah, I know. I saw you guys, but yeah, it was a mess with that. But yeah, I think some of the features of it are really good. The fact you can sit down for a little bit if you feel like it. There's a lot of areas to sit, and they have like a snack area, and you get to go closer to the stages. On the right hand side of the shed stage is pretty nice. And you can like hang out in the back with like some of the band members and things like that.
Yeah.
That's really cool to me. I don't know. It just enhances the experience. Like bands I've listened to for 20 years, and like I'm standing right next to the guy, I can just be like, say how much I'm grateful to hear your music, and
Fawning and collapsing over them. And
yeah.
Collapsing in on yourself. Do you know why?
Nice.
I don't know why.
That was very good.
All right, so the last kind of like festival question, and I feel like we kind of touched on it, but if anyone had anything else to add, Elijah, we'll start with you, and that is, what are your thoughts on the booths, like how they're set up, the food, the merch, lockers, all that?
Let's see. Lockers were useless because I bought one thing, and that thing was a t-shirt.
You needed lockers.
So, I thought they were in a good location, and if anybody told you, yeah, I'm gonna set my business underneath an overpass, like people were laughing out of the room. But it was nice because you could hear, you could almost hear all three stages at once, so it kind of gave this cool atmosphere.
Yeah, felt like a lot was going on.
Yeah, and it felt like, of course, it was horrible if you needed to make a phone call, but. So I found a vendor who was serving, drinks, and they were from Mississippi, and so I felt like I found my long lost kin. It definitely helped me hide from the Florida man and the Washington people that decided to come on this trip. But overall, I thought it was great, especially the Monster booth, because I drank like 4 or 5 Monsters. That was a lifesaver.
That was your only hydration.
Yeah, it's crazy so many people didn't know that it was free. And like you hear people talking, it's like, no, they're free. Where'd you get the Monster? They're free. Go get them.
Yeah, I was like, oh, man, I'm thirsty. And Trey's like, oh yeah, free Monster. I'm like, bet. The only bad thing, you had to stay there, but if you were listening to the Wheelhouse stage, I mean, you could do a lot worse.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't mind staying there because it's like, I don't know. It was kind of dangerous so the first day I was like, I'm not going to drink any Monsters, right? I don't want a headache. I need to drink lots of water, and I probably drank like 5 or 6 bottles of water. But then the second day I was just so exhausted and tired. I think I had 2 Monsters, and the third day I was like, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to live. And I think I had 2 or 3 then too. But
I mean, you saw my state Sunday where pounding headache, and I just kept drinking them, kept going. I drank the good one though. I drank the one that gave me electrolytes, so at least I was going to survive.
The tea lemonade one.
Yes, the Arnold Palmer. It was really good. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, that one's really good.
The only bad thing, they took away the chairs towards the end, and I'm like, well, this is lame.
Oh, they did?
That's lame.
Yeah, they did. They so halfway through Saturday they started taking away chairs, and then Sunday there was only like 4 chairs.
Well, I kind of want to go on a rabbit trail and vent because maybe there's some Monster executive who listens to the podcast, and here's my vent. The best Monster ever created that I have not found in like 6 years, and it was an orangeade and tea. And it's basically orange juice. It's an Arnold Palmer, but instead of lemonade, it's orange juice. And it was amazing, and I loved it. Now all I find, the can looks identical to the peach one. It's like peach and tea, and I hate that. It's disgusting. It's an abomination. I feel like companies accidentally would scan to order more peach ones when they meant to order more orange ones, and they're like, well, oranges just aren't selling. We got tons of peach orders, though. Let's just stop making oranges and do the peach ones. I don't know. It drives me nuts, and forever I always go, do they have an orange one? And I check, and the next best thing is the carbonated one, the Chaos, with orange. But anyway, that's my vent. If someone has a large amount of stocks in Monster and they have a say on the board, tell them Gary wants orange tea back. All right, so next person. Trey, what were your thoughts on booths and all that?
I liked how the concept was for setting out under the underpass, how everything you can just walk through and see everything. It was in the middle of all the stages, made it really easy to go from one place to the other, kind of like a central hub where to find people, what's going on, where to bump into random band members.
Yeah.
The problem is I'm so used to like Vans Warped Tour and other kind of like old style festivals where when you go through there, everyone's handing you a free CD of their record label and you get all this music, you get all this stuff. Everyone's so friendly. They're all handing out stickers, just tons and tons and tons of free stuff.
Yeah.
And you get to meet lots and lots of people, and I just didn't get that atmosphere with that one. That's one thing that let me down. And the booths didn't stay long. The bands would be like, all right, we'll be here for like 20 minutes, and then all our stuff sold out. And you go up there and it's like, oh yeah, we got extra small, and that's about it.
Yeah, that bothered me too, and because a lot of bands, it's like they went on tour and they end the tour at Furnace Fest, so all they have left is their tour merch. And then they get there and they're like, "Yeah, we'll be here. Our booth's set up on Saturday at noon." And you're like, "Oh, I'll check it out around 3:00 because there's an opening between bands." And you get there and they're like, "Oh, all we have is extra small of this one shirt," and it's like, I don't like that shirt, but I'll buy it for my wife, I guess. Yeah, I totally hear that. And the other thing too is like, I kind of would have liked some of the bands like Norma Jean, their merch, their booth, I feel like it was there a moment, and I came back later and it was just gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish that there was a little more like staying power. I don't know, like if record labels had a booth that sold their band's merch or something rather than the band like merch guy. But at the same time, you know, got to hang out with the Close Your Eyes dudes for their merch booth, and that was cool.
Yeah.
But
just not everybody had a merch booth either. Like I looked for Impending Doom, and I couldn't find anything. It was driving me insane. They had nothing. That's frustrating.
Or they shared booths. Like I know
Yeah.
Mastodon and Spirit Box. Mastodon just had like a piece of cardboard and said "and Mastodon." So
yeah.
They're such a big band. You'd think they would have their own booth.
Yeah. So how about you, Bobby? What were your thoughts on booths and food and merch and
Yeah, I already
Whatever.
kind of tapped into it a little bit. The food is fine, a little expensive, but it was nice having that bar across the street, so I thought that was kind of cool.
that brewery?
Yeah, I was really concerned that there would be like big lines for food and like it would take an hour to get food, because that was the horror stories I heard from the grapevine about the prior year. But no, it was easy getting food. As far as the booths themselves, man, there's a lot of booths for random companies, you know, trying to sell frisbee golf discs and things like that, and that's fine, but I didn't have enough booths for the actual band merch. That's what I was hoping for. So I already mentioned couldn't find Impending Doom. I didn't really love what Demon Hunter threw out there, so I didn't find anything there.
Yeah, all three designs of their shirt.
Yeah.
I think that was the last stop on their
Yeah.
tour, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing with Idle Threat. There was a shirt I liked, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we don't have that size." I was like the second person in line too when they opened, and then yeah, we don't have this. We don't have your size. I was like, oh, "I'm the second person here," and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's from our tour, and we already out of that size." I'm like, "Oh, it sucks. Never mind. I'll get this other shirt, I guess."
Yeah.
So would have appreciated maybe a little more love into the stuff that you could get, but the layout was great.
Which is only a miss on the bands, you know. That's money they're missing out on when people are
Yeah.
like, you guys didn't have enough stuff for me to buy.
I just figure like if you're gonna play a Furnace Fest, that's where you should load your stuff, because there's hundreds or thousands of people that wouldn't be going to your concert otherwise that might hear you and be like, I like them. Let me go check them out. Like,
Yeah, and on the flip side, other bands like Stretch Armstrong and Blindside, as soon as the gates opened, the line was 1,000 people long, and it's like, I want to buy their stuff, and I'm sure they made good money on all that merch. But
yeah.
So last, Dalen, how about you? What were your thoughts on merch and booth and food and
All right. First, I'll go over the food situation. Last year, there was quite a few times where I was in line for food on Saturday night, I believe. I would stay in the line for like 45 minutes, and then I'd get closer to the end of the line, and they'd be like, "We're out of food." And so you'd walk into another line, and it happened again. So there was like one night where I think I just like got something when I got back to where I was staying at the end of the night. But yeah, this year it felt like it was like a lot easier to get food. And one of the big things that I really wanted them to do last year, and that I'm glad they implemented, is having coffee booths there. That was a big deal for a lot of people. They were really saying that. As far as the vendors go, this year was more of last year was like mostly just bands and maybe like one record label kind of thing, and that was it. Now, this year was more, a lot of other type of things. And also last year, merchandise sold out like super fast. Like Stretch Armstrong was out of absolutely everything. Like right when they set up on Saturday, I think they were out like by like lunchtime, and the Furnace Fest booth was like completely empty. So I think this year they stocked up on more things to sell, and so there was a better chance of you getting something. However, yeah, there's always a chance where a band's not gonna come out with gear. Like last year was, people were like, I want some showbread stuff, and they didn't have anything. So yeah, there's always issues with that, with any kind of tour or festival. Maybe they oh yeah, we'll play we'll play some music for you guys, but I don't know if we're gonna have any merch available. So yeah, I mean it was a different experience this year for sure with all that.
Yeah.
But,
Still a valid complaint though.
Mm-hmm. Well, it
Yeah,
sounds like they
yeah,
improved
yeah.
from last year, so hopefully they keep improving. The next year and the next year will be better. However long they keep going.
It's supposed to be
So
like a 4-year thing, right?
So I would think 2 more years after
Yeah.
this.
I did get the Sharon Collective CD, so
Yeah, that
so
CD is
happy.
pretty lit.
Yeah.
Yep, I have that
Shall we?
too.
Are we going to see an all consuming podcast booth next year?
That'd be cool. I was tempted to sign up as a what is it called? A media person to try to get a backstage pass and stuff and be able to take pictures and do interviews and whatnot, but I didn't. So this next section is less about the festival and the city. You see, we're going like big view, right? Who we are, where we're from, to the city, to the festival. And now we're going to talk about the bands themselves. And I don't know exactly what order or how we want to answer these questions, but there's really 3. Who were you most excited to see? Who did you like the best? And were you let down or disappointed with any shows? Elijah, we'll start with you.
First off, the reason I went to Furnace Fest was Demon Hunter. That's literally the only band I knew. If anything else, I spent $300 to go see Demon Hunter. So that was the mindset right there. So it's like they better be good, and they couldn't have been any better.
yeah, they delivered. That was good.
They didn't have any of their tracks. They had technical issues on that front, but I love how you could just see the drummer. He's yelling at the sound guys. He's like, "Screw it, we'll just play it anyway." And that couldn't have been. That was probably the best decision they could have done because it felt real, it felt raw.
Yeah, it felt real good.
It was
Yeah.
better. It's just better.
And Trey was like, last time I saw them, they weren't that great live, and then they knock it out of the park. And I think it shows they've done it for 20 years. They're having a lot of fun, it seems, and that was the highlight. That made everything worth it, in my opinion. And all the other bands were just sprinkles on top of the icing. Like it's so some of the bands that I really enjoyed watching them live. Of course, I didn't know what to expect going in because I'd never been. Like obviously, the stereotypes. Oh, you're gonna have the mosh pits and all that, the crowd surfing. But let's see. I want to say My Children, My Bride was probably my favorite band of the day besides Demon Hunter. That was fun to watch. Let me pull it up here because there are some other bands that I didn't know going into, but once you see them live, and that was probably the vibe I got throughout the whole thing. Was there wasn't a bad band that I saw. All the bands delivered. They were great. And it's like one of those things where you kind of show up and you don't know what to expect and everything just kind of blows you away. That is essentially what happened to me because it was the first time I got to hear screaming vocals live. It was the first time I got to see the moshing and everything. So I know on Saturday, like I said, My Children, My Bride, Bleeding Through and Earth Crisis were pretty cool to watch. I really enjoyed watching them. The only band I kind of paid attention to on the Baked Brothers stage was Watashi Wa. It was like really nice to hear them and chill. And that right there is what I liked about Furnace Fest overall was I could go as heavy as I wanted to listening to bands, or I can back off and get something lighter and just have a good time. And that having the 3 stages there definitely was pretty good in my opinion.
And that all 3 stages had like their own vibe,
After Demon Hunter, my ears were ringing. I could not hear on my right ear. So you know where I went? Straight to the pond, chilled. Best experience ever. Another band I really liked watching was Orbit Culture, and I kind of got dragged into that one by Trey. And for good reason. Through my pounding headache, I was towards the front, and it was great.
Yeah, I was surprised by them too. I remember I didn't think I would like them. I listened to their music and I always thought like they're good. They're Swedish metal. But watching them live, I was like, wow, this is really good. Even though they had technical difficulties and you had to play with one less guitar, like, I thought they did so good.
I think, actually, going to what kind of disappointed me or let me down, there was so much technical stuff that went wrong while we were there. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, towards the end, there were bands that should have played, like, 45 minutes earlier that still hadn't gone. There was a band that Trey really wanted to see, and he was going to get upset that he didn't get to see him. What was it? It was The Ghost Inside. So he got to see The Ghost Inside because they were, like, 30 minutes late.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the bad thing. Dying Wish, I thought was mixed really weird. I didn't think there was not as much bass as I felt like there should have been at that stage for some reason. But that's just my personal thing. I just felt like I couldn't hear any rhythm. And then
what stage was that?
The Plug.
Yeah, the Plug.
Oh, the Shed.
Yeah.
And so for those that want to know, like, Trey and Elijah, they kind of went and watched different shows, and they were like a tag team, and then Bobby and I were a tag team, and Dalen just, like, was a VIP, so he was like, I'm behind the stage over here, I'm back over here, so we didn't all get to see the same thing, and that's one reason why I wanted to get us all together to kind of, like, hear people's experience with all their different bands that they went to, because we all went to see different bands,
Yeah, most of the ones you mentioned, Elijah, I didn't actually see those. Most of the ones you said.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Also, I had to leave early on Sunday, and so there was a large stretch of bands that I wanted to see and didn't get to see. So, starting from Spirit Box, so they were all on one stage. So, I got to see most of Spirit Box. I think I left after Holy Roller. I think that was a good song for me to end off of. So, I didn't get to watch Periphery. I didn't get to watch In Flames. I didn't get to watch Story So Far. I didn't get to watch Mastodon. I'm kicking myself looking back because I felt like if I could have just stayed an extra couple hours, I had the shortest drive, but, it's whatever because I probably will never be able to watch those bands ever, and that's some regret that I'm going to live with, so might as well get used to it.
And 10 years from now, when they get back together for Furnace Fest 2032.
We all have regrets that we have.
And then I can find a young ACP member and be like, I was in your shoes once.
Make sure to have them right at the front of the pit and not let them know what's going to happen.
Yes,
That's
sir. Literally,
Don't look back.
first band we saw was Life in Your Way. Great band. Really enjoyed it. My style of metalcore right there. Except the fact that I got jumped on and hit the back of the neck and the kidney. And Trey didn't warn me. He did not.
Sounds like a good time, man.
It's
this is a good place to stand. Yeah, this is nice and close.
It's like kicking the bird out of the nest before it can fly, and that's exactly what happened. So I guess you can tell what I did after that. Just stayed away from the pit.
I had a blast.
Yeah, I
That's
bet
funny.
you did. I bet you did.
All right. Anything else there?
I think I was also sad I didn't get to see the Friday shows. I wanted to see Norma Jean and Impending Doom. I think those are two bands that I'll probably be able to see, but just not being able to see them when I had the chance. And it was things out of my control, and that just kind of sucked too. So I'm glad that next year it's only going to be the weekend. It's not going to include Friday unless you wanted to go to the party. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
So what'd you think of, like, hardcore dancing? Saw it for the first time in person?
Yeah, and I realized I wasn't a fan.
Yeah.
So, of course, I'm not the kind of person to, like, just be overtly expressive in my movements when it comes to listening to music. Like,
Sure.
I'll bob my head, I'll headbang, but I'm not going to go wild. Whether that be listening to bands live or, at church, I'm not the one doing all, like, the field goal's good and, like, the crazy Running Man stuff. Like, that's not me. I'm, like, pure Southern Baptist. You're going to sit in the back row. You're going to nod your head along to the music. And that's mostly what I did until I saw bands I liked, and then I let loose a little bit. So
Yeah. Did you get in any circle pits or anything?
no. I was staying well away from that.
I asked a few times.
Yeah, you're like, you want to go? You want to go? You want to go?
No, you never asked. You knew my opinion on that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't. So Trey, he's talking about, oh yeah, for Norma Jean, I was in the pit, and I'm gonna be in pits, all weekend. He wasn't in any pit Saturday and Sunday. He lied to me.
So I stayed on the wall for the Saturday, but most of the bands I wanted to be in the pit, it was a concrete pit, and I value my bones, and I did not want to do that.
A lot of two-stepping in the shed. I was very surprised by the amount of two-stepping.
I was expecting it with most hardcore lineups, but
Yeah.
by the time Sunday came, I was just like, no.
Yes, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So you got to pace yourself. If you mosh pit every day, you're really gonna be hurting.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right, so let's move to Trey. How about your answer for who you were most excited about? Who do you think was the best? Did you have any disappointments?
Unlike Elijah, my lineup was going for all the hardcore bands, no breaks. I wanted to be a hardcore kid as much as possible, watch a little death metal, a little metalcore, but it was all chaos, no breaks, all the way through. Except for the time that Gary pulled me for one of those pop punk shows. I don't even remember what it was.
Belmont?
Yeah.
That's easy core.
To be fair, there was no bands that we were listening to at that time.
Yeah. What else were you going to do?
Didn't they move to Sunday?
Yeah, they played on Sunday.
I really liked My Child and My Bride. That was a lot of fun. It was good to see them. They were definitely one of those bands that I matured into the metalcore realm with. Right up there with The Devil Wears Prada and Haste the Day. I got to talk to the singer, and he gave me a hug after I told him I was so excited to see him. Got a t-shirt. It was all great. Good and
Nice.
good. Yep. I got to see Bleeding Through, which I listened to them, hear them. They were kind of thing that you just kept hearing in the background as you grew up, especially when you classified yourself as a hardcore kid. It was really neat to see them live. Did not think I would be able to do that. I was impressed with their show. It was exactly what I wanted. The pit was wild. It was just an all-over good experience. Earth Crisis was a little before my time, but it was good. I mean, the music was good. Those old guys were jumping all over the stage, jumping in on the side of the pit. They were encouraging the pit to go wild. But the pit was probably the most insane pit out of all of Furnace Fest, because you had all these 40-year-old jacked hardcore punk kids.
40-year-old kids. That's,
Best way to describe it. They all looked like they did CrossFit for their whole life. And they were all doing flying heel kicks, and their hurricane pit was not a circle. It was running straight into the wall of the pit. And so it just kept getting bigger and bigger. It was insane. I enjoyed it. I got a bruise from some 40-year-old dude that did a flying heel kick into my shoulder. It was a good time. Demon Hunter. So I was trying not to get Elijah's hopes up. I was not getting my hopes up, because when I saw him in 2018, it looked like the years were catching up with him. They were not as wild as I remember them when I saw them in like 2012. They were not as active. They were good, but they were starting to have that kind of biker metal appearance where they stand by the mic and sing and scream and do their thing.
yeah.
This time around, they seemed revitalized. It's probably the most active I've ever seen them. It was a really good show. I fought for 3 shows, Bleeding Through, Earth Crisis, and then all the way up to Demon Hunter to get to the front. Because I knew Elijah wanted to get to the front too, so we were doing our best to get up there, and we both really got really good seats. I was just behind the very front row that was holding onto the rails, and got to see Ryan Clark run up the stage and run down the stage and sing and scream, and just got better when their tracks failed, because it just, like as everyone else was saying, it was raw. The guitar had more flair to it. You could tell that they were actually playing, and you could feel the passion more, because you could tell they were wearing down on their instruments and wearing down on their vocals. They were putting their all into it. It was just very rewarding.
You can kind of tell that, because that I'm pretty sure that was the last show of their tour. So, because I'm pretty sure that's what the merch people told me. So,
well, they took that big picture of everybody taking their tour, I think, right?
And, Ryan, because the next day, Ryan was actually with us at the Wheelhouse stage just watching bands. So, I think for them, knowing that the bands that they listen to getting into the scene was at Furnace Fest and have been at Furnace Fest, I think that also that was a perfect storm. That entire situation was just amazing.
It was neat hearing Ryan Clark saying he was starstruck by Earth Crisis, and then the fact that he was, as an indie band, a part of their lineup for one of their tours, and now they're here more than 20 years later playing side by side.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
it was like
cool.
1996 or something, he said, or whatever. He played for them.
Yeah.
Like, holy cow.
Yeah, that's really cool. I too was very impressed with Demon Hunter. I saw them in, 2010, and yeah, Ryan Clark stood still in the, holding the microphone with a stand even, and screamed. And I mean, the songs were great. They were really well done. It was mostly Summer of Darkness with some triptych. And audibly I liked it a lot. Visually I didn't. But this time around, even his mic had issues, so not only did the tracks work, but there was a lot of clipping or ducking on his vocals when he screamed. When he sang, the mic was just fine, but it seemed like when he was screaming, the audio was just very choppy and it wasn't very smooth at Furnace Fest. But I mean, besides that, you could really hear the guitars. There were no crazy synths just drowning out the sound, and everyone was into it, and the whole crowd knew all the songs, and it was just great energy, great vibe. It was a good thing to see Demon Hunter at Furnace Fest.
Felt like that was the best experience you were going to get from Demon Hunter. Another notable shows that I saw that I didn't know was going to be as good going in. Dying Wish, even though there was sound issues, that didn't really bother me. They were extremely energetic on stage. Super had their own kind of like vibe going on, did their own thing. Lead singer was doing twists and turns and jumping straight into the crowd and having them hold her up. And then one thing that she did that most other bands did is she did not turn off the mic when she handed it to someone to scream along with the song. Norma Jean, even though it took them like an hour to start, lots and lots and lots and lots of sound problems, it was a lot of fun. I had to fight to get to the front, but I was just basically like, I'm going to the pit, and they're like, oh, all right, I'll let you through. Got to the pit, basically started a dust storm. It was a lot of fun, lots of people rolling around. A more traditional pit was going on instead of just two-stepping and flying heel kicks and hardcore stuff. The lead guitarist jumped into the crowd, and we were all carrying him over, and I think I took a photo. And
Yep. I stole it. I put it on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a lot of fun.
And I didn't even know that happened, because I think around that time was when that incident happened and the show had to stop. So I'm like, why is everyone freaking out? Like, what is going on? So I didn't even know that their guitarist was out there crowd surfing.
I think another neat thing is the showdown was a great experience. I did not realize that was going to be that great. Really loved the lead guitarist's guitar. I'm a huge Jackson guitar fan. And then the sound, the heaviness, it felt like good death metal. It was good. It's high energy, heavy duty. Love the drums, love the guitar. Brutal.
How about his shirt? God size.
Yeah.
I guess because he's really big. I don't know. Supposedly the drummer, you saw the drummer, right? Freaking jacked, swole dude. Apparently he had the same shirt, but it got too hot and he took it off. Any disappointments?
Definitely all the sound problems.
Which is, bound to happen.
It's not exactly the festival itself, but I highly recommend to not use the scooters to go from in-city to the festival. It is not fun, and you'll find yourself airborne a few times.
That's what Bobby and I did. Like, we took those scooters like crazy.
I actually liked it. Yeah. I thought they were fun.
You're not supposed to go 18 miles an hour when you hit bumps, Trey. You got to slow down.
You'd think I'd learn, but I did not.
Yeah, that like crossing the train tracks was pretty scary.
That was
like it's like, having to go through that crazy bumpy asphalt, and then like, yeah,
Yeah.
there were
So
a few times where it was pretty scary.
I tried to do the overpass the first few times. I'm like, you know what, this is a little scary.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to the north side and try to go into the city through that way. I go over the tracks, and then I have to go through a tunnel. I'm just like, this is so much worse. This is so much worse.
Wow. Yeah, you should have gone on the south side. There's a road there, First Street. There's a actual sidewalk for bikes for like, I don't know, 2 miles. So any other bands or bands that may have disappointed you?
I kind of expected Spirit Box to kind of disappoint. I mean, they had good visuals in the back, but they were kind of slow moving around. But hey, it's not I Wrestled a Bear Once, so...
Yeah.
Nerd.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was cool seeing As They Lay Dying's, bass player up there.
Yeah, that was
cool.
Pretty cool.
Bobbing his head like crazy. He had way more energy than everybody else.
Yeah.
Then Bobby, how about you? Who were you most excited to see? Who did you think was the best show? And were you let down or disappointed in any way?
Yeah. Kind of already touched on it. Most excited to see Close Your Eyes. That was like, I mean, I was going to go anyways, just for the fun of going to the festival. But I mean, that was what got me excited. And yes, Gary, you gave me a list of all these bands to listen to, and I'll confess I listened to like 30% of them because I just kept re-listening to Close Your Eyes because I was just excited. So there's that. I think they delivered too. Only the disappointment in that was like every time they would sing like Jesus or God in the lyrics, they would put the mic away and like put it to the crowd for the crowd to sing it.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, what are you doing, man? But at the same time, they sang like most Christian songs. So like I knew every word, and it was a good time. They were all great songs. So overall, I was not disappointed. And then also, like you said, we got to hang out with them at the booth, and get some merch and talk to Shane. That was kind of neat. So that's probably, that's who I was most excited to see. However, I think the best show was Blindside. Outside of me wanting to punch a guy, it was Blindside.
Punch a guy?
Yeah, there was this, we're in the shed and there's some kind of open walls, and so a big breeze was coming through kind of at an angle, kind of from the corner of the stage back towards the crowd, and there's this guy kind of sitting closer to that where that breeze starts, smoking a cigar in the middle of like the first two songs, and he's just puffing them hard, and
like
it's just
in
like
the pit.
In the pit, like the circle stuff, or if there was any circle stuff, like where it was for Maylene and stuff, was like right in front of us. And this guy's just blowing, and it's just blowing right into my face. And he was just far enough away where I couldn't get to him to like tell him to knock it off. Till this one guy finally moved, and I like tapped him on the shoulder, and I was like, "Can you knock that off?" He's like, "Oh, sorry." And then like everyone around me was like, "Thank you for saying something. Why didn't you say something?" Like the whole time, that first track or two, all I could think about was, "This is a great song. I want to punch that guy. This is a great song. That's not very Jesus of me, but I'm gonna punch that guy." Like, what are you doing? It wasn't in between songs or anything. It's like in the middle of the concert. But yeah, that's my rant. I'm not a violent guy, but I had sinful thoughts.
There was murder in my heart.
Murder in my heart, yeah. Against
Your hardcore kid was coming out.
It was coming. I was thinking, let's start a circle pit right here with you in the middle of it. Blindside I thought was just great. I honestly thought they would play another song or two. Everyone's chanting for them, but they just did their whole album and they called it good. And actually, looking back on it, it ended really well. Like they ended with that the silent song, and it was really good. I think really the whole trio, Demon Hunter, Maylene, and then Blindside, and all of them had tech issues, but I think it worked out fine. The only one that was really upsetting was Maylene not having mic for the first two songs. Like everyone's fix the mic.
Fix the mic. Fix. It's funny. Furnace Fest actually went live on Instagram for that. So Dallas Taylor like walks out, and everyone's screaming and hollering, and the mosh pit just gets slammed with tons of people trying to get up to the front of the stage, and it's like we're gonna get mowed over. But
yep.
And like so then they have it all up there, and from the live stream you could hear his mic. It's like it was working in their monitors up front. So to them, yeah, it's working just fine. Like they could hear it, but we heard nothing. And then at the end of the song, you heard everyone like, "Fix the mic," and whoever was live streaming was like, "What are they saying? What are they saying?"
Yeah.
But yeah, totally different experience for those people back there. But
yeah, the whole trio is great. So I'm sorry for Trey and Eli that went to emo night. You guys made the wrong choice, but
wasn't that after
I'll forgive you.
Blindside?
No, I think it was like during, like, because Blindside wasn't done till like 10:30 or 11.
Well,
wasn't it?
actually, so we left. I want to say we left after the Ghost Inside. No, so while Manchester Orchestra. So it was like during Blindside.
Yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
you guys went to the main stage instead, right?
Yeah, I think we chilled, watched Manchester, and then hung out, and then I think we just decided that we were going to go ahead and we went to the bar across the street to chill for a second, catch our wind, and then we went straight to emo night.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
There was no chance of getting in for.
Oh yeah,
and the
that
Sons
was
of
the
Disaster.
issue because like the band, like there were a few bands we were gonna go see, but just so happened everyone else went and saw him too. So
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
shed is just a metal box, shoulder to shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like Bobby and I we were like shoulder to shoulder, and we're like, we're not letting anybody through. You know, and like we like
And
made
they
an
just, like,
air
mowed
pocket
behind us.
We just need elbow room so that we can breathe in front of us, because I don't want my chest on some guy's back and being crushed, you know. But and people are like, I just want to make it up to the front, and it's like, so does everybody else. Like you're not making it through. You know, they get mad at you. They're like they stick their arm between you, and they're like, excuse me. Like you're not gonna fit. You know.
Yeah.
It like you had to be mean to people, or
Yeah.
On Melee, and I like bowed. I was like, my feet are not moving. And then I remember you were talking to some guy, and you guys were like, yeah, he says that now. But I was like, ooh, now they think I can't. I'm gonna stand my ground. I stood my ground, but yeah, I got hit a couple times and people trying to mow past me. And yeah, it was still a good time. I was at the edge of the circle pit on all those. As far as so I think best show though was Blindside, and then but Demon Hunter, we've already talked about, that was amazing. And then kind of a couple honorable mentions. Norma Jean. I mean, everything was great. I also thought they handled, there was like a medical incident and they had to like stop in the middle of a song, and we had to get some EMTs to somebody in the crowd, and I think they handled that really well. So I'm appreciative of that. But also with them starting late and then that happening, I think their set just got cut short. So I feel like everything they did was great, but I wish there was more, and I think they got kind of cheated on that. Idle Threat, I'm the only one I think that saw them. Everyone else went to the showdown, so
I'm a little jealous on that one.
That was the only one I had to decide, and I listened to Showdown, and I'll just be honest, I'm not as snake bit as everybody else, so I went to Idle Threat. So Idle Threat was good. They did 6 songs or so, and it was a smaller crowd, but with the Showdown playing in the shed, I mean, what are you gonna do?
I mean, you got 2 bucket list items, right? Well, let's say Idle Threat, the Showdown. The odds of seeing Idle Threat again, pretty good. Assuming they don't implode and they're like, we aren't a band anymore, right? So I took the calculated risk to see the Showdown, who I've never been able to see, and they played stuff from their very first album. So like, super glad I saw them. But
yep. As far as disappointments, I talk about like Norma Jean. I think Impending Doom was a little bit disappointing, and not because of them necessarily, but I think they were just wrong time of day, wrong stage. Like they needed to be in the shed, and I think just had kind of the wrong crowd. They couldn't get the energy going, and
yeah.
I just I don't think it was anything that they did, but like them and My Children, My Bride, both of them I think just would have been better fit in the shed. But My Children, My Bride was great. I enjoyed that. And then we've already talked about like the merchandise. There were some issues with that. It was kind of disappointment. And then not getting to see the Showdown. That's probably it. My favorite part, I think, of the whole weekend was that trio of Demon Hunter, Maylene, and then Blindside. I mean, as much as I love seeing Close Your Eyes and My Children, My Bride and that kind of stuff, and I think just that trio, my feet
back to back
barking.
to back at the same place.
Yeah, it's also kind of fun with the rush. Like I wasn't going there for vinyls, but it's kind of fun. Like, ooh, I'm gonna go find this vinyl guy and then get these free. So anybody get these vinyls? Those are the ones that I got. I didn't actually want them, and if Gary gave them to anybody,
Yeah,
you're
there's several
welcome.
people on Discord that I've been like DMing all weekend, and like they're like, "Did you get this one yet?" And I'm like, "Oh, we're still looking for them. We're still looking for them." And so there was a day where we actually got more than just one each, and so I was able to give several people on our server
Yep.
some of those codes, and I even gave some other people on Instagram some codes, so they were able to hook people up because Bobby
Yep.
doesn't collect vinyls. So
No, but it was fun. Like, ooh, I'm gonna try and get those. And then also just the rush of like, is Gary gonna get a blindside vinyl? What am I gonna have Grumpy Gary for the rest of the weekend, or am I gonna have Happy Gary for the rest of the weekend?
I was pretty angry for a while.
Because that was a whole fiasco. And then Gary's doing like side drug deals to get his blindside vinyl.
Yeah, talking to strangers and making deals.
Making deals, Venmoing people.
I'll,
Don't,
I'll
honey.
talk about that later, probably.
Yeah. But that was good. That was fun.
Yeah. Dalen, how about you? Who were you most excited to see? Who do you think the best show was? And were you disappointed?
It's also different for me because I've seen a lot of these bands before in the past. But yeah, Blindside was like top of the list for me. I've seen
And
them.
you've seen them before? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I saw them with whenever they came out, like the album "The Great Depression," which isn't like their anywhere close to one of their best albums. But I saw them and they played like an acoustic show before the show, and I got to like meet them and got them to sign a flyer. It was pretty cool. But yeah, I was really looking forward to seeing them play, Silence in full because I love that album. I mean, I love all their albums, but yeah, that one's amazing. So yeah, that was great. It was good to see the Showdown again. I had saw them one time with Becoming the Archetype, I think. And yeah, they were even better this time. And I did love that they played some stuff from the first album. That was incredible. I've seen Demon Hunter 3 times, and this was definitely by far the favorite of mine of all time seeing them. I think they put on the best show, and they definitely had the energy, especially right when they came on. Other times, like you said, Gary, like sometimes they come on, they would just be like, he would just be standing at the mic, like kind of like monotone almost. I don't know. He didn't have energy, but like this one, he came up right on fire, like right up at the beginning. So it was great.
Practically running back and forth, like.
Yeah. I was like, what? It was great. A big one for me personally, and it's only because I grew up in the like Christian rock music, was Roadside Monument, and the fact that I got to see them since like I've been listening to them since probably '97. And it was just cool to see them play all these songs that I had heard on their records, and just their drummer is amazing. Just watching him play, and he's probably like 50 years old, still like just annihilate the drum set. It was incredible.
Yeah.
I loved seeing Advent. I saw them earlier this year, and they are great every single time. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, they blew me away.
Them and Life in Your Way were great.
Oh yeah. Life in Your Way. I had never seen them before, but they were great too.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw people on that Furnace Fest community group, whatever page, and they're like, "I'm an atheist, but Advent almost converted me," because their show was just so good.
It was good. Yeah.
Yeah. So for a disappointment, I'm gonna have to say Norma Jean, and only because I saw them like a month prior to the festival, and they were just so much more on top of it than their music content. Like what they chose to play was just just great. But I don't know what happened this time. I don't know why they had so many audio issues and just overall issues. It kind of made me mad about that. But I've seen them so many times, so it's not that big of a deal to me. But I can understand going to a festival and really wanting to see a band, and you get kind of disappointed in that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I liked seeing My Children, My Bride again. I've seen them one time before, and they're
It always
just
makes that
so
angry
great.
face, like the.
They're
like all the
so
time.
good. They're so good.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to see Maylene. However, I wasn't that impressed with it. Whenever they were screaming like "fix the mic," the guy up on the stage, since I was like really close to the stage on VIP, he was saying like Dallas was holding the mic wrong or something like that, and that's why it wasn't coming out properly. But I didn't see it. I didn't understand what he was talking about. But there were so many people in the crowd, even in the VIP section. I couldn't get a good enough view, like to even see him up on stage. Like there were so many people.
Yeah.
It was cool that he like right at the end of the show he was out like right by his tent, like
Yeah.
hanging out with people. That was cool.
Yeah. Pictures. Yeah.
And the last one that was kind of a disappointment to me was Impending Doom, like you guys said. Just the stage they played was kind of rough, and I had also seen them earlier this year, and they were a whole lot more on top of it then. So I don't know what was going on with that. I also went to a lot of the pre-fest shows, and I went to the show at the brewery that happened the day before. And there was some good stuff there.
Did Bloodlines play?
No, Bloodline, no.
Meadows.
Meadows played at the one I went to, but I missed them because I was trying to park. But yeah, that was a great venue. I love that venue. It's like they had like TV screens up near the front of the stage, or in the merch area, the very front of the building. It was great, so you could just like chill there and like watch and not get like surrounded by people if you wanted to. It was great.
So I guess I'll give my answers. I actually didn't write any answers to any of my questions, because originally we were going to do 2 separate interviews. I know half of us were going to make it, but we're all here, all 5 of us. So I guess my fast answers, winging it. Most excited to see, I already kind of mentioned, was Blindside. Best show was Blindside. Big bucket list item. I'll still watch the recorded videos that I recorded and just smile and have a good time watching them. I was very surprised by Life in Your Way. I thought they were really awesome up on the stage. Not just with their Jesus shout outs, but just their performance in general was really good. My disappointments are the same as a lot of yours, and I think really any band that I really wanted to see, if it wasn't on the Shed, I was disappointed. I just felt like the main stage was so impersonal, and it's like they're 20 feet up and 10 feet back, and there's no interaction. Like for them to get out to us, they got to cross a 10-foot gap. And where the Shed, it's like people are pulling them off the stage. They're like, we got them, pull them in, and they're just much more interactive, and it feels more intimate. So those shows felt more like a show. Like they felt like an activity we got to do, where the main stage is just kind of like, there's those guys up on the pedestal, let's stare at them while these yoo-hoos kick up dirt and dust. So in that, I thought Impending Doom was lackluster. Like I wish that I felt more, or that it was better. I don't know. And yeah, it was like right in the middle of the day, right? Everyone's eating lunch and the sun's beaming down. And my biggest disappointment was Norma Jean. I've never seen them, so I was so excited. And the fact that they, so they played a whole song while these people all around us, we were probably 30 feet behind the pit, so we were not that close. But someone collapsed, right? And so there's just tons of people like running back to the tent, to the sound booth, and like telling people to move out of the way. And I'm like, I'm trying to watch the show. I'm trying to listen to these guys, and people are coming up and trying to clear the way and get his attention. And they're like holding up X's, telling them to stop playing. And I didn't know someone was hurt. And I'm like, we understand they started 45 minutes late, but you can't cut them off now. Like, is that what they're doing with these X's? But someone ended up getting hurt, which they didn't know until they started the next song, and so they stopped halfway. So that's 2 songs that were ruined for me. And then it was like 15 minutes, 20 minutes to get EMTs there and like get this guy out. And they made the announcement like, whoever's friends with this person, here's his name, they're going to the hospital, go with him, right? And so it's just I don't know. It just kind of kills the mood, especially right in the middle of a set. And it's like, well, we got 2 more songs. Like, oh, really? Like, I feel like I haven't even watched you guys yet. But I don't know. Big letdown. In my book, I'm going to say I've never seen Norma Jean still. Because I want to see them again in the right frame.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and one of my regrets, I saw a long line for My Children, My Bride, and people were out there talking to him, and I saw Trey talking to him, and I was like, I'll come back and talk to them. And I came back not even 15 minutes later, maybe 20, and he wasn't there. And I wanted to ask him. So I saw them at the Haste the Day farewell tour, and what he would do on the stage is he'd spit this loogie up like 10 feet in the air. It's disgusting, right? Huge amount of spit, and he'd catch it in his mouth. And I wanted to ask him, like, why didn't you do that? And why did you do that? You know, like, but darn it, missed opportunity. Maybe I'll see them again and be able to ask them. But so the final question to wrap up this whole thing, what was your favorite part of the whole festival? Like, looking back, what do you think was peak Furnace Fest? And, you know, I'll start with Elijah. What was your whole festival? What's your favorite?
I'm probably gonna cop out, but I want to say, you know, just the entire thing was truly amazing. For me to pick Furnace Fest to be my first festival, to be my first hardcore / metal concert, I think it really set the bar high for the next time I go to a festival or go to a concert. Mm-hmm. Just because
you got spoiled.
Yeah, I did get spoiled. But yeah, just everything from the bands to the experiences to meeting you guys finally in person, to having to deal with Trey all weekend. It was just great, you know, because me and Trey, we talk pretty consistently through Discord. So being able to meet, being able to be ourselves, but in person was pretty cool. I love the variety because you come out of, you know, the shed after hearing a lot of hardcore. You're going by the pond and you just hear this pop punk stuff that's kind of chill and relaxing, you know, compared to what I listen to. Like, this is great. This is music I want to listen to as I'm going to get a drink. And then I go get a drink and then I hear, you know, 2010 breakdowns. I'm like, oh, yes, I missed this. Mm-hmm. So, and I really felt that leaving Demon Hunter, going to the Monster Tent and having the Ghost Inside play. And I was like, where has this band been all afternoon? I need my breakdowns. So, but just being able to experience all of that and the other stuff that comes along with going to Birmingham for the weekend and chilling. Emo night was pretty cool. You know, I never thought I'd be in a club and hearing all these people yell out Paramore and Pierce the Veil and all these bands, and I'm just like, are these my people? And they're just hanging out in Birmingham. I don't, and Trey can attest to this, I don't like being in cities a lot. And Birmingham isn't the biggest city, but it's still a lot bigger than, you know, where I'm from, where, you know, Tupelo, it's a pretty big city, but on the grand scheme of things, it's like a small town compared to a lot of the other cities that are in the area. So kind of experiencing that, being able to be out, do whatever, do cool stuff, just the whole weekend was something I needed after, you know, a rough summer of work and school, and just, it was a great stress reliever. Take a load off, have some fun, meet some cool guys, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Cool. Trey, how about you?
So I'm probably gonna do something much like Elijah, but it was the experience being able to be a hardcore kid again, like I was in my early 20s, late teens, running around, going for the middle of the pit, going for running through the crowds, seeing all these hardcore bands, wearing myself to almost death. It just kind of reminded me of going to all the festivals when I was in college and stuff and in high school. And it was a lot of fun, a lot of nostalgia, just being in the very middle of a crowd, screaming out the words to a band that I've listened to for the past decade or so.
Yeah. Bobby, how about you?
I kind of touched on it a little bit. Just that trio of bands to see Demon and Maylene and Blindside like all in a row. That was probably the highlight of the experience. But it was also really cool. I think the thing I really liked was just seeing like a lot of the band members at the merch booths and getting to talk to them. Like we talked to Idle Thread a couple different times and got to talk to the Close Your Eyes booth um, and then just like being in like the main stage and then right next to you is like Ryan Clark and you're like, oh, this is cool. Or like we're in line for a taco and then like next to us is the guy from from Showdown. I can't remember his name right now.
David Bunsen.
David.
Yeah, we're like, it's a Showdown. His wife and his kids. Like,
Sorry,
it's cool.
Dalen's on a first name basis.
Oh, sorry.
What's up?
A little VIP over here. So I think that was just like a cool vibe of just how everyone's there just to have fun, and I don't know, it didn't feel very separated from the bands. Felt very integrated and a part of a experience. So felt like I was a part of history with seeing Blindside and Maylene specifically. I don't know that I'd ever have that chance again. So, and then kind of like Elijah said, I had never seen any of the bands. Like I've listened to a lot of them, but everybody on the list, everybody at Furnace Festival, I've seen bands before, but none of them have had a scene before. So every single one was a first for me. So that was a lot of fun for me. Got to check off a lot of boxes all at once. That was kind of neat.
Now to make more boxes.
Mm-hmm.
True.
All right, Dalen, what was your favorite of the whole thing?
I think just the experience of getting to see bands that you might not have in the past or, might not ever get to see again is just, incredible, and I also think like back in the days when a lot of these bands would play around here, I didn't have the money to go and drive 3-4 hours to go see them. Now I get the opportunity to do that, so it was cool. But I just like the festival as like as a whole, like just you're sitting down somewhere and some guy will just start next to you talking about his favorite band and like when he saw them, and like you just have so much in common with everyone, and I love that experience. And I just feel like I'm more at home than I am anywhere. Like when I'm at home here, I don't feel like I can talk to anyone about that kind of stuff. It's just like it's just very personable, Yeah. And I felt that also last year. There's like we were like on the plane flying there. I flew last year. I didn't drive, but like just sitting there talking to everyone around us, like that was just on the same flight. Like half, like I was probably like 80% of the flight was like people going to Furnace Fest. It was crazy, but it was a lot of fun. Just and I really enjoyed being able to actually talk to the creators of the fest. I'd always wanted to talk to Chad forever because I kind of vaguely remember the festival like back when it first started. Like I remember hearing about it, but I would never been able to like drive that long or go to a festival like that.
You mean like from 10 years ago?
Yeah,
2001?
yeah.
2000?
Yeah, 2000. Because I remember some shows I was going to in like 2001. But yeah, I would have never been able to go to something like that. But I didn't have the money, I didn't have the transportation, things like that. So yeah, it's just the whole thing, the thing as a whole, and that's why I love about it. That's why I want to kind of get more involved with it. So yeah.
Yeah, Bobby and I got to talk to Chad Johnson before the gates even opened.
Yeah.
He came to apologize for the late start, and he was giving everyone those cards, those collector's cards, and
Baseball
the
card
guy
things.
behind us is like, "Excuse me, but are you Chad Johnson?" And he's like, "Yes, I am." And then boom, like everybody
I
huddled,
didn't even know that was him.
and he started telling stories. Like the stage moved from over here to over there, and
Yeah.
all kinds of details. That was really cool.
Yeah, he was like, I can be back there, worrying and stressing about why we're having a late start, or I can come talk to you guys and hand out baseball cards. So that's what I'm doing. So that was kind of neat.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to next year. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite part of the whole festival is, piggyback on what everybody said, but it's this really cool culture that they have there, where you have like Christians who are there to see all their favorite Christian bands, and there's some not Christian bands. And then you have others that could care less about the Christian bands, but their bands are playing at the same time on a different stage. So you almost get like these two groups of people to go to this place simultaneously, and there's some overlap between like these Christian hardcore kids and these just secular hardcore kids. And it's just really cool to see that. I mean, you saw people with shirts that are like support Christian hardcore, you know, wearing all kinds of band shirts, right? And you're like, hey, I like your shirt. Oh, check out that Haste the Day shirt. Look at that Becoming the Archetype shirt. Then you have the flip side where people are like, Jesus Christ is a, you know, punk A B word. I don't want to say it to have to explicit the podcast. But, you know, it's just like they're standing side by side next to each other. And it's like, you know, you have these people with differing opinions and religious views and political backgrounds. And it's just, you know, you have people that are like, you have bands that are vegan hardcore, which I learned is a genre. And, you know, it's just this really cool melding of all these things. All in one place. And I totally agree, Dalen. Like, it feels way different being there. It feels comfortable. Like,
Yeah.
like when I'm at church and people are like, oh yeah, do you listen to music? And I'm immediately like, yeah, but you don't like it. You know, and it's like, oh, do you like Lecrae? I'm like, yeah, he's alright. You know, it's just, it's a totally different feeling when immediately the thousands of people around you already like the same genres as you, and like that's what we all like. Like, we all like this. It's not just like, oh, we listen to it, we like it, and we go to these shows. And yeah, it's a really cool place to be. Really fun.
It's a great feeling.
Yep. So I want to wrap up by thanking our patrons for supporting us. And if you like what we're doing and you want to support us, buy us a cup of coffee by joining our Patreon. And if you want to be part of the conversation and join a community of like-minded people, join our Discord server, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook. And yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.